Now I'd like to talk about the koshas, the sheaths, the veils that limit our perception. But before we get into that, let's talk about the senses, the five senses. The five senses that are somewhat limiting. Now we consider the world around us as real, and we're perceiving the world around us through the five senses. The five senses are communicating information to us, and we are seeing with our eyes, we're hearing with our ears, tasting with our tongue, and smelling with our nose, and sensing things, touching with our body, especially our hands. And this is how we are perceiving reality around us. But what science tells us is that what we are seeing is a very narrow spectrum of what is seeable. What we hear is a very narrow spectrum of what is hearable. What we smell is a very narrow spectrum of what is out there to be smelled. What we taste is a very narrow spectrum of what can be tasted, and our sense of touch is limited to the tactile senses, what we pick up with our nervous system, with our hands, for example. And we know that in the animal kingdom out there, there are a lot of creatures that can see better than us, they can hear better than us, they can smell better than us, taste, and they have a different sense of touch. So their perception of reality is different than ours. But we're limited by this. We have this ego in us, our sense of self-awareness, our I sense, and we feel separate from what's going on around us, and we're perceiving what's going on around us through the senses. We consider this real. Everyone else considers it real. We are all, more or less, perceiving reality in the same way. So it substantiates things. We are all human beings. Now, outside the senses, there are energy fields around us, the aura, if you will. But what we can see with our eyes and feel with a sense of touch is the physical body. We're living in this body. We're born in this body. There's a consciousness in us from the time when we're born to the time that we die. And our sense of I-ness. My name is Tony, and I'm perceiving what's going on around me from within this body through my five senses, but I live in this body. This body is who I am, in a way, and very often we have a very strong identity to this body that we're living in. Now, what's interesting is that this body is tied to the physical world around us, which seems obvious. The Sanskrit name for this body is Anna Maya Kosha. Anna, food, Maya, the illusion of, Kosha, the sheath. So there's a sheath that gives us the illusion of being in this physical body that's fed by food. We are what we eat. You've heard that term before. We want to go anywhere, we go with our physical body. If there's anyone listening that doesn't have a physical body, well, welcome. So this body is very important to us, and you might say that Hatha Yoga, the yoga of working with the postures, helps to make this body healthy, and it takes the stresses from our body, and in the end it helps us to sit longer in meditation, to help to move into different states of consciousness. So this body is very important to us, and we spend a lot of time taking care of it. But we know that we are more than the body. The next level, according to the Sanskrit tradition, is the prana maya kosha. Prana, life force energy. In the Chinese tradition, they call it qi, as in Tai Chi, Qigong. So we have this life force energy within us, and as you know, some days we seem to have a lot of life force, sometimes we don't have as much life force, and we do pranayams, breathing practices to help to build this life force, make this life force stronger within us. We know it's there, but it's somewhat intangible, but in a way we feel it. It is tied to the physical body, and it moves through the body in a variety of ways. And it moves through the body, keeping this body functioning. So we want to have a healthy prana maya kosha. And within this prana maya kosha, There are what are called vayus, or wind currents. There are 5 major vayus. There is what's called prana vayu. That's the life force energy that comes in from the outside. We're tied to, you might say, prana with a capital P, and this life force energy comes into us, our prana field with a small p, and we are tied to this. And life force energy is coming into us at all times. And when we do our pranayamas, we are not only strengthening our life force energy, we're tapping into that universal field of life force energy. Apana vayu is the elimination of toxic waste. We breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. We eat food, our body eliminates the waste. Energetically, we're breathing in the prana, we're drawing in the prana, but we eliminate the prana, and it's called apana vayu, and that elimination is downward and down into the earth. There's what is called udana vayu, and it is the process of communicating divine ideas to other people. Is tied to the throat chakra. It is all about learning how to have good resonance in your voice, but not just using your voice. The voice becomes a vehicle and a transmitter of spiritual consciousness. When we have a healthy udana vayu, what's happening is we can communicate spiritual principles to other people. There's samana vayu, more or less tied to the 3rd chakra, and this helps us to assimilate not just food, but it helps us to assimilate spiritual ideas and information, language, and all that. So we need to have both a healthy udana vayu and a samana vayu to learn, but also how to teach. And then there's vyana vayu, which is tied to the energy of the spine. We move energy up and down the spine, and it helps to balance the other vayus and makes us healthy, helps our immune system. It brings us into a place of harmony. Manomaya kosha is the middle sheath. Mano from manas, manaha, it is the mind, it's our consciousness. And this is what we're trying to still. Yoga, chitta, vritti, niruddha. We're trying to still the fluctuations in the manomaya kosha primarily, but also with our emotions. The manomaya kosha is, according to some traditions, not just the mind, it's our emotions, it's the fluctuations within us, it's the things we've learned, it is tied to our subconscious. And it's that awareness we have that I am what I think, I am what I feel. And it helps with the use of language, of course, and communication. So we're very aware that we have thoughts, we're very aware we have feelings. We are aware we have life force energy, and we are aware we have a physical body. In all of the yoga that we are doing, the whole effort that we are involved in, the enterprise that we are undertaking here, is learning how to still the fluctuations in the physical, the annamaya kosha, the energetic, the pranamaya kosha, the mental, emotional, the manomaya kosha. We're trying to still and harmonize these layers. Now, these first 3 layers, these layers are tied to the material world. Our thoughts, our emotions, the physical body, the senses, the desires, eating food, all tied to the physical realm that's around us. Like the physical realm is real, but it's only a part of reality, and we are embedded in it, so to speak. So the process of yoga is learning how to harmonize our awareness within our body, within these first 3 koshas, so that we can be aware of something else. So when we have learned to still the vrittis, the fluctuations in our thoughts and our emotions, we've taken the stresses from our body, we've learned to harmonize these, we move into a place of calmness, we move into a place of peace, then we have access to the Vijnanamaya kosha, and the Vijnanamaya kosha is where our inner wisdom comes from, what's called the buddhi. We get inspiration. what we learn with our Manomaya Kosha and with our experiences just does not just go into our subconscious, it goes into our higher consciousness. So we start to have intuitive understanding of things, what we read and what we're experiencing. This is where we have access, that first access to our creative self that ends up giving us access to our higher reality, our inner soul, you might say. So Vijnanamaya Kosha is the higher wisdom in us, always trying to come through to us. Our intuition is always trying to communicate to us, but very often it can't get through the static of all of our restless thoughts and our constricted emotions and the attention we pay to our physical body. So once we still all these, we have a more direct access to this Vijnanamaya Kosha. Then there is the Anandamaya Kosha, Ananda, bliss. We're trying to get in touch with the bliss. What Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss. It's not following your desires and your passions. It's do what you need to do in your life to connect with this inner bliss. And when we experience this bliss, it's far greater than anything our senses can give us in the way of enjoyment. So Anandamaya Kosha is that aspect of ourselves that we can only have access to when we have stilled and harmonized all the other distractions within us. We've internalized to the point where we can move through the peaceful Vijnanamaya Kosha and then move into experience the Anandamaya Kosha. But there's more. There are deeper levels of ourself. What we're trying to do is experience our soul. In Sanskrit, one term for the soul is the Atman. The universal consciousness is often called Brahman. Brahman equals Atman. This is what the Upanishads tell us. Brahman equals Atman, which means Atman equals Brahman. So my Atman equals Brahman. The universal consciousness, Brahman, equals my Atman. Your Atman equals, you get it, Brahman. Brahman equals your universal consciousness. And then the next understanding will be my Atman equals your Atman. So hence, Namaste. The soul within me, the Atman within me, honors the Atman within you, which is the essence of a lot of yogas. We're learning to honor the divine in other people. So this is the journey through the koshas. We need to understand what the senses are doing for us. We need to understand the intricacies of the koshas. We're trying to calm and harmonize. All of our yoga practice is learning how to still all the fluctuations. And when we move into that stillness, we move into a nice state of bliss. It is a goal. You get a gold star if you experience bliss, but there is so much more to experience.